I can't hand city.
I get a thumbs up from Brad.
Didn't see Brad.
He was standing at the door.
Please give a thumbs up.
Oh, you-
There's a thumbs up.
All right, we're going to get started now. Go ahead and call our Sherwood City Council meeting, regular meeting into order, April 16th, 2024 at 7:02. All rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you, everybody. Sylvia, roll call.
Mayor Rosner,
Here?
Council President Young,
Here.
Councilor Browse,
Here.
Councilor Mays,
Here.
Councilor Scott.
Here.
Thank you. Councilor Giles and Councilor Stankey are absent.
All right, thank you, Sylvia. Approval of the agenda?
Make a motion to approve the agenda?
Second.
A motion and a second. All those in favor of approving the agenda say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Agenda is approved. Thank you, council. We have a few items on our consent agenda tonight. Excuse me. Four to be exact. We have item A, approval of the April 2nd, 2024 City Council meeting minutes. Item B, resolution 2024-023, authorizing the city manager pro tem to apply for and sign a broadband development program grant application through the state of Oregon. Item C, resolution 2024-024, authorizing the city manager pro tem to enter into an agreement with Sherwood School District and Washington County Cooperative Library Services for a student data load project. And item D, resolution 2024-025, authorizing the city manager pro tem to execute a construction contract with Lee Contractors LLC for the Cedar Creek Greenway Feeder Trail project.
I move consent.
Second. I have a motion and a second. All those in favor of approving the consent agenda say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you again, council. Citizen comments. Sylvia, do we have any citizen comments tonight? And Brad, do we have any online? All right, that's easy. We'll go right to presentations. So we have four items under presentation tonight. The first one is our annual Twelfth Valley Fire and Rescue State of the District presentation, and we have Cassandra here tonight. Awesome. Welcome.
Members of the council, and obviously there's an entourage here. Your Sherwood
We're gonna.
firefighters.
I apologize. Let's get your mic on.
Green hard.
Sometimes you have to.
Gotta push it.
There we go. Put
Perfect.
some muscle into it. There we go. Now I'll moderate my voice. So, hello, Mayor and members of the council. We appreciate you allowing us the opportunity to share updates. And I want to express regrets for Chief Weiss. Unfortunately, we were trying to do as many of these presentations as possible prior to the May election so that we could answer any questions that you might have, but that means we're triple and multiple booked. And before I kick off in the presentation, and we do have a message from the fire chief, I would love to say how much I enjoy seeing your interim city manager, Mr. Sheldon. It's great to see you up here. You're not on a heavy piece of machinery. So we appreciate all the partnership with Craig over the years. So we'll kick it off next with a slide from Chief Weiss recapping the past year. And if this video doesn't work, then we can just skip ahead. So I don't know if, am I running this? Well, do you know if it'll queue up, Sylvia?
Brad, maybe?
There wasn't a video, it was just a PDF.
Oh, okay. So no problem. Then we're going to skip that part, which is just fine. But we can send it to all of you in case you want to see the recap. So we kicked off 2024 with quite a bit of activity. Like you, we experienced the winter storm, but we were already contending with some circumstances. We lost one of our lieutenants tragically, so we were preparing to say goodbye to him. And we also had to relocate some firefighters from a fire station due to mold mitigation. And then the storm kicked off. In the very first day of the storm, we had triple the call volume that we normally have. So our crews were working really, really hard to contend with all of those emergencies. We had at one point 4 of our incident management teams, in addition to our fire operations center, activated just to help deal with all of those things. We had a fire dispatch liaison so that we could prioritize calls for service. We worked with our utility partners. We actually had utility partners, our water purveyors, in our fire operations center, as well as at dispatch, because we had to switch into major emergency operations mode. So for any of you that aren't familiar with that, that means that we might have to prioritize some public assist calls that don't have imminent fire or life safety risks, and they kind of go to the back of the queue. So with the partnership of our water purveyors, we were actually able to work with them so they could send technicians out to support people who had burst pipes and all kinds of other major calamities. So in total, during that winter storm, we responded to over 2,300 calls. The top 3 dispatch types were commercial fire alarms. A lot of times when we experience power outages or surges, that will adversely impact commercial fire alarms. Public assists can range from, folks that may have fallen or people that have the burst pipes or water problems. And then just other calls for service. So we added units to our system, and it was a really good opportunity for us to test some of the planning and practicing we've been doing with our incident management teams. And we also harvested a lot of lessons so that we can apply those should we have to contend with wildfires this summer. And we secured a grant from FEMA so that our emergency manager could keep doing the education, not only for our personnel who may not have had to work in a fire operations center before, which is a little different than those daily dispatch calls and the incident command system kind of that they regularly employ, and then as well as our partners. So that includes Sherwood City staff, should anyone need some of that ICS training for the future. So you're probably familiar, most of you have seen this in the past, when we provide a snapshot of last year's calls. We changed the map that you see on the upper right. It's just a little bit of a different depiction of where those call concentrations are occurring. Red and orange being where you see more calls throughout the year. Oftentimes those correlate with assisted living centers, multifamily housing in our system, and that tracks for Sherwood as well. You may remember from past years that the situation dispatched is not always the situation found, and it takes us a little bit of time to clean our data to make sure that we really have an accurate picture of what we're experiencing. This trend has been the case for many, many years and will continue, that as many as 7 to 8 of all 10, out of 10 emergency calls includes some facet of emergency medical care. So that's why you have, or you see many of our personnel, including the firefighters in the audience, that are cross-trained as paramedics and at a minimum an EMT level, so that we are always able to render aid. It doesn't make sense for us to rescue someone from a burning building if we cannot, establish an airway for them. Same for a crash or any of the other things, because of the infrastructure that we have needed for firefighting. So of those 2,051 calls that were in the city this past year, we had 5 structure fires. One was commercial, 4 were residential, 63 motor vehicle crashes. Well, actually more than that, 89 motor vehicle crashes, some brush fires and vegetation fires, some vehicle fires, and some cooking fires, which again tracks pretty consistently with the incidents that we have district-wide. In addition to the Sherwood Fire Station, which does respond to 72% of your calls, and that for us is a good indicator that we have the station in a good location, right? Proximity-wise to where calls are occurring. but you also will get response from the King City Station, the Tualatin Station, the North Wilsonville Station, and very rarely, but occasionally, the Newburgh Station. You'll probably recall that we have a system, so when we have major events occur, we can move units around so that we don't have big gaps in between where resources are located, and then we have mutual aid agreements in the event that, for example, with the Chehalem Mountain Fire in 2020, that wasn't too far from here, we had, at one point, that was a 7-alarm response, so we were pulling almost all of our resources and backfilling with our partner agencies. So moving on to an emergency medical system update, you have probably heard a lot of the news about Multnomah County and some of the difficulty that they've had with their transports and having enough paramedics in their system. That is not a problem that's unique to Multnomah County. That's been a national issue. Largely because COVID shut down for 24 months all of the technical training for paramedics. So now you know that created a big glut or an absence of people in the system, I should say. And then we've also seen a decrease of people who are interested in going into emergency services. In Multnomah County, which is different than Washington County, they require that both of the people that are on a transport unit are paramedics. You may recall from last year that we shared that we've been working, and this had been a decade plus in the making, with Washington County on the franchise agreement that affects the city of Sherwood, because we really wanted to see system improvements, and we were at a point where we were very frequently experiencing what's called level 0, which means that we respond to an incident, provide that imminent medical care that's needed, but if someone needs a trip to the hospital, we oftentimes did not have a transport unit available from the private ambulance provider, and then the fire district would step in. But it becomes unsustainable for us because then that pulls resources out of the system, unless we are the transport provider. In Washington County, we are not. So an EMS alliance was established in partnership with the county, all the fire agencies, private participants, private ambulance participants, just evaluated how the franchise could be improved for better accountability, more units, better communication, for example, being able to have those private ambulances dispatched from the same 911 center as police and fire are, being able to see where those units are in the system. And I'm very pleased to report to you that we are considerably better this year than last year, and much better than we had experienced over the past decade as it relates to having a reliable number of transport units in the system. And we're really, really pleased. They're still, as I mentioned before, trying to catch up for the scarcity of paramedics, but in Washington County and Sherwood specifically, we're very pleased to have more reliable service. And then we have, as you may recall, in Yamhill County, we are the private ambulance, or we are not the private ambulance, we are the transport provider. And so in instances that we need to move units around, that's kind of beneficial for you to have proximity to Yamhill County, where we have the ASA. Legislatively, on the EMS front. Oh, yes. Yep, sorry,
I'm not a fan of TVFNR down in Yamhill County. I wish it never happened. I think it's a negative to Sherwood.
I'm sorry to hear that, Councilor Mays. I don't know if it is useful information to you or not, but we do, in the same way that private ambulance entities charge for that trip to the hospital, we do that in Yamhill County, and those fees underwrite the expense of the additional transport units that we need to have to service that ambulance service area.
Yeah, it's not that's negatively impacted Sherwood. It is the allocation of the Sherwood engine down to Yamhill County from time to time. So I believe our coverage in Sherwood is not as good today as it was before annexed to Yamhill County. Chief Weiss knows this. I've worked with Chief Weiss, so it's nothing new, but I think it's just unfortunate.
I very much respect your feelings. We will be sharing this with the Yamhill County Commission in 2 days, so you're getting a sneak preview, but we've made considerable progress on locating another station in that rural area of Yamhill County, which will add an additional unit, which may improve some of that, what you're feeling as far as moving the direction of Newburgh. I will say, though, that because we benefit from having a regional response, we have, we move resources as needed based on how calls are occurring. So as I kind of referred to earlier, we never have very big gaps in between the units that we have in the system, unless we have major emergency operations.
I know the facts, I stand by them.
I respect your feelings. As I previously started to mention, there was some legislative work done this past session with the passage of House Bill 4081, and that is the only legislation that our board took a position on in support. The intent of that legislation is to modernize the EMS system and to improve the transparency in the EMS system, and then it also speaks to some of the certification, and I think it's expected that there will be additional legislative efforts in subsequent sessions to continue to make improvements. And I think that is all for our EMS update. Oh, one more thing. We are piloting a single resource unit, a community paramedic pilot, and that is basically to help contend with some of our high utilizers. These are folks that might have chronic health conditions or underlying conditions or mental health or substance use disorders where they call 911 a lot. In some instances, we have folks that will call 911 more than 100 times, and that can erode our response reliability system-wide. The intent of the community paramedic pilot is to proactively engage with those folks and try to get them better services so they get better care, but they're not necessarily using the 911 system as frequently. And we're hopeful by next year we can report good metrics to you. And depending upon the outcome of the levy, we would like to ultimately expand that program so that people get better care, and we also just don't have those system impacts, and that also reduces the amount of transports to the emergency departments that are already pretty strained. Moving on to our capital update, most notably at the training center. For any of you that have been in the community academy and in those locker rooms, you know that it's been decades since we've really done any significant upgrades to the facility. And as we have so many people retiring and we're onboarding so many new firefighter and paramedic recruits, we really want to improve that space. And so we will be doing a recruit village that will move them out of the auditorium and have a much more efficient means of getting people trained and showered and back on the training ground. We're looking at the PGE facility, which isn't far from here, as one of the models. And especially as we've seen with the increase in temperatures during the summertime, and needing to have people not be drilling outside, having an indoor space means that we have less disruptions to our training. So we're really, really excited about this update. There will be multiple phases to the recruit village and the training center upgrades, but we are hopeful that once we have it in play, we will be able to invite any of the counselors that have not participated in past community academies to experience it. So lastly, I just wanted to, oh yes, sir?
Doug needs to.
Oh, Doug, you need to. Yeah, we're going to get you. We'll do it on a nice hot day. Get real sweaty. Well, we'll make sure you get up all night long. And
Put out a fire and tear a car apart with Jaws of Life.
And wear the full gear with the thing on your
And
back
drive,
that's
and
really
drive the fire truck.
Exactly. See, it's grueling but fun. Excellent. We did just do a community academy for members of the media. I think that our executive team, I said, we're going to do this. And they're like, all right, all night long? Yep, all night long. The reporters are going to stay all night long. And the crews definitely gave them a run for their money. And it was really nice. We wanted them to have more perspective. Frankly, it's harder to get members of the media out to the burbs. And we wanted them to understand how we work and what we do. So lastly, and you heard a teaser about this last year, you may have already taken a look at the local option levy in the voters pamphlet. You know that we have been reliant on levies since 2000, and that is largely because of ballot measure 47 and 50 that, you know, impacts our property taxes and permanent tax rate. So our local option levies have primarily funded first responders. Our current levy, which expires in 2025, is funding at least 92 firefighter paramedics as well as support staff. And the local option levy that's proposed will maintain that staffing, but we also want to add 36 personnel to existing stations, and that will be additional units at existing stations, and that's to deal with our rising call volume. We had between 2018 and 2022 a 23% increase in calls. We had a little dip last year, so our last 5 years is 17% increase in calls. But we know that our population is still growing, albeit not as fast as it was 10 years ago. Our population is aging, and we do not expect that we're really going to see that trend line change much. So we want to be prepared for the future. This local option levy rate is 69 cents per thousand, which works out to be about $17.54 per month for the average resident in our service area. And if voters approve this, as mentioned, as far as the staffing that it would retain, we would also use it to purchase medical equipment like defibrillators, thermal imagers used in firefighting, the breathing apparatus firefighters wear in a live fire environment, transport units when people do need a trip to the hospital, and vehicles to fight wildfires as we continue to anticipate that threat growing. As we've seen in the past 5 years. If the levy does not pass, we will have another year to kind of learn from voters about what their concerns might be and to make another attempt prior to the expiration in 2025. But if it were to not pass both times, then we would have to do pretty considerable staff reductions. So we have gotten good feedback. We've done over 100 presentations in the community, and we have tried to provide information in venues. We have a forum, a virtual forum next week that you'll see on all of our social media platforms just to answer questions. We have gotten mostly positive feedback, but we don't want to take anything for granted, and we recognize that people are dealing with a lot of factors and they don't have limitless resources. So we're just trying to make sure they have the facts to make an informed decision. So that, I really appreciate all your time and welcome any questions.
I have a quick question about the levy, because I had actually a voter called me, and I'd remind them that we don't do the fire stuff, but they were reading the voters pamphlet, and we're trying to understand what the increase was, because the voters pamphlet really doesn't tell you where it started and where it's going to.
Great question.
Talk a little bit about how much it's going up compared to what they're paying now, assuming it passed.
Yes, sir. So our current levy is 45 cents per thousand. The proposed levy is 69 cents per thousand. That works out to be a $6.11 per month increase for the average resident. And let's see, if voters choose to approve it, we expect that rate will be the same for 10 years. We were able to hold the 45-cent rate that we've had for 2 levy cycles. So I hope that answers your question.
When you're saying that for the average resident, what estimated value are you assuming that on?
That is assumed at an assessed value of $305,000. As you know, the real market value and assessed value, there's a big delta there, and we get that information from the property tax assessors.
Yeah, it's a little bit higher in Sherwood.
Yeah, definitely.
A lot higher, but yes.
I was expecting it to go up more than it did in the, from the last levy cycle. So I was a little bit surprised by that. Staying low. So,
All right, is that it?
well,
Is
thank
any
you.
questions for Sandra or other questions?
Counselor Mays, you have a question?
No, I know the deal, so.
Okay.
Oh, I have a question. Of the new if the levy passes and you're able to increase staffing, are any of those staff trained mental health training or?
That's an outstanding question. So we are not planning specifically to hire mental health clinicians, but we have been working with our county partners because there's a recognition that we need to do more in that space. And similarly, some of our law enforcement partners are working in this space. Right now, Clackamas County is piloting a nurse triage line, which we're very interested to see how that goes to try to help navigate some of those calls. And we would be able to invest in community risk reduction programs, and we expect the emphasis on that will largely be in the EMS, including the mental health space. So I wouldn't rule out that it isn't something we might do, but we haven't made any plans yet.
Because I can assume, just like our PD, you come up on calls that you may have to deal with some mental health issues. I know our PD does, so yeah.
Absolutely. And it's really hard, right, when to discern the root of someone's crisis, especially I have so much regard for the work that law enforcement officers do as they try to de-escalate people who might be in mental health crisis that are acting violently. And for us, that might present as a physical ailment, even though maybe it's an underlying mental health issue. So we hope to be part of some solutions in that space.
Awesome.
Thank you.
One last question. When we were talking about the EMS stuff and the franchises with Washington County, and of course they just switched to EMS, I believe.
To AMR.
AMR.
Yes, sir.
When you don't have availability of the for-profit ambulance and you have to transport, are you getting fees?
Yes,
for
sir.
that? So you're able to bill insurance for that, just like they are.
We are. We're able to recover costs, and we recover those fees based on whatever the county rate is set. But for us, as far as it's very impactful when it's happening as frequently as it had been happening for a number of years, because we're not built up with that infrastructure. So it takes our frontline units out of the service, and like I said, it decreases response
Can't rely on it to
reliability.
dedicate the infrastructure to handle it.
Precisely.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome. Any other questions? Well, thank you so much
Thanks
for
so
coming.
much for your time. I'm gonna leave this on.
Awesome.
Thank you.
And thanks for the Sherwood House coming out.
Yes.
Glad they didn't get a call.
All right, we're going to go ahead and move on to our second presentation tonight, which is the Washington County Family Justice Center Annual Update. I think we have Judy Wiley here, the board president.
It's okay.
And-
I'm going to struggle with your last name, so my last name's Willie.
Billy, okay, sorry.
That's fine. No, I hear it a lot.
Just
so.
call him Rosner.
Yeah.
Mine has an extra U, that's Rose. So it's a way to remember it. And you have your executive director here too.
Yes, yes, great job. So,
Awesome. Well, thank you for coming, and we're eager to hear what you have to say.
great. Thank you. Thank you for allowing us to come. We were here last year, and we will be here next year. How's that? If you, I should say, if you allow us. I want to thank you, Mayor, for your conversations and your support over the years, and for this council's support of the Family Justice Center. I am the president of the Family Justice Center Board of Directors, and I consider that an honor. It's been really a privilege to do that work. And we do appreciate this opportunity every year to share the Family Justice Center's update from the year before and make sure that you as a city council are aware of what we're doing in the county. it's important to us, and it's important to every city we serve. So that's why we do this. As you probably know, and if you don't, we have purchased a building, a new building, and it is located in the Tannisbourne area. And we are, it's a very large building compared to what we have right now. But we have exceeded 20 partners in the building we have, and there's no room to move anywhere. So we know that we need a new building. We needed a new building. And we will also include the CARES Northwest, which is all about child abuse, and coming into our center in the new building. And what we found out is that in the last couple of years is that CARES Northwest has been serving more children in Washington County than they've been, and they're located in Multnomah County. So these families have had to travel to Multnomah County for services overall. They have a very small office in Washington County, but it does not serve the numbers at all. So we're thrilled because this is what really started our move, our plan to move was to get CARES Northwest into our facility. Rachel will talk a little more about that and the impact it has on families overall. So our new building, our new name will be Family Peace Center. And we're just, Family Justice Center is a very well-known name for facilities like ours. In fact, it was founded in San Diego, and that is the name they have. So we're not really rejecting the name, but we just feel like Family Peace Center is a better name for what we do. And justice tends to have that a different, people see it differently. So we have decided that Family Peace Center fits. So that's what we'll be called when we open our doors. Move-in date is set for spring of 2026. And so it seems a ways away, but it's going to be here before we blink. And so we will be, in the meantime, we'll be busy with construction. We are remodeling the building somewhat to fit all of the different partners in the building. And we had a great meeting this morning with our construction company, and it's really a big challenge to bring 20-some different partners and really, in a sense, businesses into one building and have them all work together to support clients that come in. But we've done that over the last 3 or 4 years. It's amazing. They all have their own purpose in the building, and they all make sure that what they're supposed to do is done. And clients come in and they don't know what they really need, and they get everything they need all in one place. So that is the real blessing of us doing what we're doing. And we're thrilled to finally get it in Washington County. So we have been we have a strong board of directors, some very talented people on our board. And one of your community members is Kevin Barton. Mm-hmm. And you all know him, and he's DA, and he serves on our board. We are looking forward to growing our board in lots of ways, not necessarily just number, but in talent and what they can bring to the board and expertise. So if there's any other board or any other community member that stands out in your mind that would fit very well with us, please just let us know. We're in the interview process, and we'd love to increase representation in Sherwood, just like we're trying to do in every city. So one last announcement, and then I'm going to turn it over to Rachel, because she's going to tell you all the really cool stuff. We have a Saturday, May 18th, is our Denim and Diamonds. The FJC started in 2017 before we even opened our doors, and it's a fundraising event, but it's not just fundraising, it's fun. It's really a fundraiser. And so we do that every year in May or June, and this is at the Hillsborough Elks Lodge in Hillsborough. And we'd really like to have some representation from your community and from the council. So please give that some serious thought. The invites are going out Thursday. and you all will have one. So we'd really like to see you there if you can make that. So now, Rachel, I'm introducing Rachel Schutz, our executive director.
Can I ask a quick question before you go?
Absolutely.
I'm just curious, the current building, do you guys own that one?
No, we lease.
Okay, so I say you won't be
Yeah.
needing to sell that, so you'll
That's
get
right.
out from under a lease payment. Okay,
Yes.
great.
And we're excited because we've paid for the building. We will be doing a capital campaign starting pretty shortly that will help us cover the rest of the remodel. But the building, we have raised enough money to pay for it.
Wow.
Rachel, are you gonna describe the building a little bit?
Yeah,
It's
happy
so
to.
cool. Okay, cool.
Yeah, and Renee actually had the opportunity to come out and take a tour of it, which was fantastic. But it's a huge building, and it is not even that old, but it was a call center. So it's 3 floors of just really open space, which is a fantastic way to start out when you want to remodel a building. And it will be, the first floor will be survivor community-based services. So things like food pantry and laundry and child care and clothing closet and a teaching kitchen and all those sorts of things where survivors can sort of gather together. We heard a lot from our survivors that building community with one another means a lot. And then the second floor will be community services. And so those will be folks like advocacy, such as the Domestic Violence Resource Center, Sexual Assault Resource Center, Community Action, Oregon DHS. We have a home visiting program called Family Skill Builders that's increasing their footprint. All of our civil legal services, all those types of folks will be on the second floor. And then on the third floor is going to be our medical clinics, such as CARES Northwest, and then also Providence Medical Services is going to be opening a clinic there as well. And then our law enforcement partners and the district attorney, and we're going to end up with 3 courtrooms in this new building. So that will all be what our Voices Committee calls the safety floor, and then the second floor they call the healing floor, and then the first floor they call the hope floor. I know, it's just, it's so wonderful. So we're really excited, and we're deep in the weeds of demolition documents and needing to go for city permits and all those types of things. But when it opens, it's going to be something spectacular. Yeah. So talking about 2023, you guys received our packet, which is wonderful, and I'll also project it up here. But some of the big highlights was we provided more services this year than we've ever provided. And that's always in our line of work a hard thing to state, but it is an important thing in my opinion, because we know that we are not yet reaching all the people that are experiencing violence or abuse. And so when our numbers go up, that tells me that we're doing a better job normalizing asking for help. We are doing a better job getting the information out into the community so that the community can start having a conversation about what does violence inside of a home look like? What does violence between 2 people look like? How can we start talking about that? How can we start preventing that? Getting that information into spaces like cities and city councils or libraries or schools or food banks or food pantries or even local businesses. Because being able to have that conversation is so important to breaking the silence, is what we call it. And so when I see that our numbers have gone up, I feel really heartened by that. The other thing that I was very excited about is we have increased our services so much. We provided over 10,000 services last year. And that's a combination of what you would imagine as, advocacy or applying for restraining orders or counseling, but also things like community outreach and the Shop with a Cop program that we do with youth, or our food boxes that we've started doing for the holidays. So Thanksgiving food boxes and holiday food boxes, the holiday shop, really trying to build out not just the immediate safety services of I need a restraining order, I need to talk to the police, those sorts of things, but really those long-term and more holistic services that help not just in the immediacy of needing that safety, but help support the person and the family in the long term. Because what ending a cycle of violence looks like is continuous and sustained support, so that the family can continually sustain themselves without having to turn back to relationships that were not healthy for them. One of the largest causes of having to go back so many times is not having sustainable sources for yourself, not having things like food, not having income, not being able to have your own job, not being able to have your own place. Those things cause people to stay trapped. And so if we continue to build out all of those services that help supply that stability for them, then they can continue to make their lives what they want it to be. They can be empowered, and their children don't have to return to the cycle later in life themselves.
That's a good quick question on that.
Yeah, absolutely.
If I understood you earlier, your sense is we're doing a better job of what your words are normalizing asking for help. So it's not necessarily that we're seeing like a fundamental increase in domestic violence. We're just doing a better job of getting those people the help they need. And then earlier you were talking about Multnomah County and Washington County, and that they have they're servicing more kids in Washington County than Multnomah. Is that partly because we're just doing a better job of?
Yeah.
Because population-wise, you wouldn't
Yeah,
think that would be
yeah.
the case.
It's a great question. So a couple things, Multnomah County, Washington County's number of children is increasing faster than Multnomah County's, and our population is increasing faster. So there's those two pieces to layer in on top of Washington County is doing a better job reporting and investigating child abuse. And so we are getting more referrals over to CARES Northwest, which is the only child advocacy organization that serves our two counties. In fact, Clackamas County has one. And then also to that point, Washington County is dedicating a lot more resources. All of our officers and all of our police departments, if they have a child abuse investigation, they have to go all the way out to Multnomah County in order to complete that. And our families are dedicating a lot more resources as well, because the trip out to Northeast Portland can be up to an hour and a half long. And so it really is we are doing a better job out in Washington County investigating, uncovering, and reporting those things.
Great.
Yeah. Absolutely. I will turn over to services so you can see where they came from. So like I said, over 5,600 survivors served, and then over 10,000 services provided. And you can see the vast majority of folks, when they first come in, they are looking for advocacy services. And what that really looks like is talking to somebody about what's going on and figuring out what their path forward is going to be. And then the rest of the services are what is it that we're choosing to do? What is it that makes sense for you and your family and your safety plan? And then what are the things that maybe you access later after the initial emergency has passed? The other thing that we started doing is tracking outcomes for our survivors. And so that's what you have at the band on the bottom, which I'll read out to you. But now that we've gotten to the point of tracking outcomes, that's what I get most excited about. The number of people that we're serving, that's great, because I want to make sure that we are continuously reaching the people that need us. But I also want to ensure that we are making the impact that we're setting out to make. And so in 2023, 85% of survivors felt like they and their children were cared for by staff and partners. So they felt heard, they felt like they belonged, they felt like they got what they needed. And that's really, really, really important, because if you don't feel safe somewhere, if you don't feel like people care about you, you're not going to talk about the most vulnerable and worst thing that has potentially ever happened to you. So that's a really important access point. Then 100% of survivors reported that they experienced trauma-informed care while receiving services. And that's really a central tenet of what the Family Justice Center is trying to do. We're bringing all of these individuals together so that survivors don't have to retell their story 21 times. They get to do that one time, and then everybody knows, so that they have that single access point, so it's not re-traumatizing. So if 100% of survivors say, yes, I did experience that, I didn't have to experience extra trauma going place to place to place, or retelling, that's a huge piece of what we're trying to accomplish. And then 85% of our survivors reported that they received the help they needed to keep their family safe. So not just themselves, but their whole family. And that when we're thinking about the whole family system and the whole generational cycle, that's a piece that we want to make sure stays high. So finally, what is really interesting for us is our demographics, so the demographics of who we serve and who is doing the serving. But then also for Sherwood, we provided 29 Sherwood survivors with 47 services, and I actually went and took a look back. Every year since we've opened, we've increased the amount of services that we've provided to Sherwood, both in the number of residents and the number of services that they've accessed. And so that's really heartening too, and also to me says we are doing a good job reaching out in Sherwood. We are increasing the amount of engagement that the Family Justice Center has with Sherwood. The last time we were here, we talked about the different places that we can put the resources, making sure that individuals are able to access the information easily. And it's showing, it's bearing out, even though Sherwood is relatively far away from the Family Justice Center. We continue to see an increase on an annual basis of people who are in Sherwood that are accessing those. And like I shared last year, about 30% of our folks do not disclose where they're coming from, and that's fine, they don't have to. But of those that did, those were the numbers that came out of Sherwood. And the final bit that I want to be able to show you is just some wonderful pictures and highlights. Our Voices of Hope Survivor Art Gallery, which just happened at the beginning of this month, where survivors all throughout the year create art as part of their healing process, and then we have an art gallery of that. Shop with the Cop, which is my favorite event. It's we partner with several different law enforcement agencies, and we take a whole group of kids back to school shopping. And then this year we actually did it for holidays as well, so kids got to go Christmas shopping for their family members, which was wonderful. Fall Family Feast food boxes, we gave over 150 families food boxes. And then our very first Domestic Violence Awareness Month Run for Hope, which was way more successful than I thought it was going to be. I was terrified to do a run, but it was actually awesome. So we'll be doing it again this year. We had Santa come visit us this Christmas season, so kids got to pick out their toys, and their families got to go secret shopping for them and load it all in their car while the kids got to hang out with Santa. And then we have our Voices Committee, which is our Survivor Advisory Board. And they did several times, they went and testified before the legislature. And one time we even went down to Salem, which is one of those pictures there, to testify on behalf of survivor experiences. And so that's everything in our report, and I welcome any questions you might have.
Well, thank you so much for coming in today. That was a great update. We do look forward to having you here and having you here next year. Any questions? I had one, but you answered it already.
I don't have any questions. I just think what you guys are doing out there is amazing, and I'm excited that you were able to purchase a building just to expand your services and help that many more people. And so thank you.
Yeah, I think back to the years when we were dreaming this dream. Seriously, we were talking about it, and Chief of Police from Hillsborough, Lee Dabrowski, came from Salt Lake City, thank you, and as our new chief, and said, why don't you have a family justice center? And we went, well, we should. And the whole thing just started steamrolling. And I shared the story that I wrote, if I said this last year, forgive me. I don't remember. But I shared the story that I rode he and I partnered and went to every city and talked to the mayors and the city council asking for support of a family justice center so we could lease a building. And I rode in the front seat, not the back seat, which was a good thing. But I said to him, I've never been in a police car this much. But it really was a great experience. And just seeing how all the cities came together and said, yes, we can do this. And
I think that was like 2017. That was my first year on council,
It
and
was.
I remember you guys coming.
It was 2017.
Yep.
And as we get ready to move now into where we are, it was a dream we had all along of just more partners and more services, and we've come a long way in a pretty dang short time. And our board and having Rachel we're very, very proud of that. And there's a lot of commitment in this. And so it's exciting to come, honestly, we're traveling the cities this time. And it's exciting to share and say, look, we're doing this. And every year it's better and better and better. And we're doing more and more and more. And it's going to take that for a very long time. So
I remember when the ribbon cutting, when you opened,
yeah.
and your first Denim and Diamonds was a great event. But I just wanted to say thank you. Thank you for the work that you're doing and helping individuals who have faced that.
Thank you. It's worth every minute.
Yeah, I just want to add to that. These situations hit a lot more people than I think we know about, right? Even for all the ones that do come and get help, there's a lot that don't.
Yep.
In every aspect of every walk of life, it could be your kid, could be your cousin, your aunt, your uncle, your neighbor. You just don't know. It's out there everywhere, and the more that people like you do to elevate these services and make them approachable, make people feel like they know where to go and that they're safe, it's hugely important. So,
It really
thank
is.
you.
And when it comes so clear is when something, we lose a victim. And it's, you read it in the paper or you hear about it, and it tears us up because that's what we're trying to avoid. And someday we will, but we still got a ways to go.
I always like to ask, is there anything that we can do to support City of Sherwood anywhere that you guys know of that needs our information, any ways that we can further partner to make sure that Sherwood is getting the services that they need?
I assume our PD has all the information to give to people if they come up on instances. I'm hoping TBFNR might as well.
Well, maybe just even in some of our public spaces.
Yeah,
that are
library,
associated with obviously police and fire are great frontline resources, but sometimes people are afraid to approach police. And
That's
fire
true.
brigades, but even just having it in public areas, the senior center,
Out in
library,
our-
library,
Yep.
the kiosk where someone can just kind of grab something with no one even knowing. I think that's important.
Did you put it at the sheriff facility at the school district?
Yes.
Okay.
As far as I know, unless they've run out, but we'll definitely check back in with
Okay.
them. Okay.
Well, I just want to add, you guys do a wonderful job. You fill a huge hole that needs to be filled in terms of services to our communities. I'm very happy and excited to support your organization. More than just words, as a city, we need to support it financially too, like we did last year. And I'm sure we're going through budgeting right now, so I'm sure we'll be doing that again today or at some point. But yeah, you guys do a great job, so thank you so much. And
Thank
really
you.
appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
We value the 100% city supports because it really is a message when we're meeting with the cities to say we have 100%. It kind of makes the cities go, okay, we better find this. I mean, and we do need it. We really do. It's we're really fortunate that county supports us strongly, and we've secured a lot of grants to help pay for this building, and some ARPA money and some other, but we're trying to keep our building projects separate from our daily, what we have to do. And we're very committed to this budget over here, staying solid so that we can provide what we need. So thank you.
Hey, Mayor.
Yes. Keith, did you have something?
Real quick, thanks for the update. Great, a great update on what you're doing. Super excited about the building, getting out of that leased space. I sort of apologize for not knowing, but do we have a link or on the city website? And I don't do this, but our social media, do we, on a whatever basis, put something out? The people that follow the city on social media, that hey, this is there. Don't forget about it if you need it.
Yeah, good idea.
If you need help.
I think that would be great. I encourage cities to have, especially if they have a resources tab of particularly like I need help with, and just link to the Family Justice Center. That can be a really easy way to sort of mask what you're looking for if you can just run across it when you're looking at city website or city resources, those types of things. And you guys all know Sherwood Police Department has the best social media of all social medias. And when we do these events, they're always collaborative across all of our partners, and Sherwood PD always does just an awesome job talking about Family Justice Center and or any of the partners' resources. So they do an awesome job with that.
Yeah,
Hey.
and there's one rock star in the Willie household, and it's not Jerry.
We like Jerry too.
I like Jerry too.
He's a good guy.
Judy, I was going to say, too bad you don't have any contacts with a large international organization that could help affect some change, you know?
Oh, I know. I wrote down Rotary. I did. It's on that food drive.
Yeah.
That's this next year. I'm going to drive that one to get
You guys always.
Our club always donates, but you
Yeah.
know it's Washington County.
Yeah.
I just was sitting here going, why am I just driving Hillsborough? I'm a Rotarian.
Yeah.
But dang. So
Well, and you can put your information in our newsletter. Send it
Yeah.
to me by the 7th of the month, and we can get stuff in if
Yeah.
you want to.
Rachel, we could
Yeah,
That
use that as a method.
triple.
Yeah.
And you're always welcome to come to one of our club meetings.
Okay,
It's the
you're
best place to be at 7 a.m. on a Friday morning.
How do I do that though?
I think about that, and then that's why I'm not a Rotarian.
We have a very lively bunch for 7 a.m.
Yeah, that's true.
All right. Well, thank you so much.
Thank
We
you.
Appreciate
Thank you
being
for
here
letting
today.
us come.
Awesome.
Really appreciate it.
You're the city attorney, huh?
I am.
All right. Well, that was wonderful. So moving on, we have two more items in presentations today. We have two proclamations. And the first one, let me make sure I got the right one. The first one is Arbor Day. So we have a proclamation honoring Arbor Day, which happens on April 26th, but I'm going to go ahead and read that out loud for everybody. Proclamation Arbor Day, April 26, 2024. Whereas in 1872, the first Arbor Day was observed in Nebraska with the planting of more than 1 million trees. And whereas Arbor Day is now observed throughout the nation and the world, and whereas the state of Oregon has decreed that the first full week of April shall be designated as Arbor Week, and whereas the city of Sherwood has been a tree city USA since 2005, anyone who drives through town knows we have a lot of trees here. And whereas the city is committed to urban forestry as a partner in Clean Water Services Tree for All campaign, a collaborative effort to plant native trees and shrubs in the Tualatin River Basin. And whereas the city is committed to partnering with local schools to teach students that trees properly planted and cared for are a source of community environment that assists in mental and peaceful renewal and provides many comforts such as shade, clean air, beauty, and increased property values. And whereas having beautiful trees planted in our community is important to our citizens, now therefore be it resolved that I, Tim Rosner, Mayor of the City of Sherwood, Oregon, do hereby proclaim April 26, 2024 as Arbor Day in the City of Sherwood. I call upon citizens of Sherwood and the surrounding communities to celebrate Arbor Day, to support efforts to protect our trees and woodlands, and to plant trees that promote the well-being of this and future generations. So that is our first proclamation. And one thing I do love about Sherwood, just driving around, especially in the spring and the fall, is just all the green and the trees. It truly is wonderful. Our second proclamation tonight is Volunteer Appreciation Month. The city has tons of amazing volunteers that do a lot of great work for the city. The obvious volunteers we think about are people who sign up to be on our boards and commissions, which takes a lot of their personal time, but is incredibly valuable to the city. But we also have numerous people that volunteer in our library, in our senior center, and at our art center, at our police department. All across the city, we have people that are giving back to their community by helping the city out, and by extension helping the community, or they're helping the community. So I want to read this proclamation as well. Whereas a proclamation, Volunteer Appreciation Month, April 2024, whereas volunteering of an individual's time and resources is an essential part of Sherwood's community spirit, and whereas individuals and communities are at the center of social change, discovering their power to make a difference, and whereas National Volunteer Week was established in 1974 and has grown exponentially each year, drawing endorsements from all U.S. presidents since 1974 and from governors, mayors, and other elected officials. And whereas we have never needed the volunteer spirit more than we do today. And whereas people who volunteer develop new skills, build their personal and professional networks, forge a deeper connection with their communities, and experience the joy of serving a larger cause. Whereas we continue to rely on the efforts of dedicated volunteers to enrich our community, recognizing the volunteer sector as a third partner with government and business in building strong communities. And whereas the giving of oneself in service to another empowers the giver and the recipient. And now, therefore, let us honor and celebrate and thank those who volunteer in our community, who share their time, energy, knowledge, and abilities by proclaiming April 2024 is Volunteer Appreciation Month in Sherwood, Oregon. In doing so, I, Tim Rosner, Mayor of City of Sherwood, call upon all citizens to help to renew and sustain the Sherwood community spirit by committing themselves to address the needs of our community